Hi, very good morning. So we are starting with the second lecture in endocrine disorders. This is hypothalamus. We'll be discussing today regarding a hypothalamus, endocrine function of hypothalamus. Now you know very well hypothalamus is a structure which is just above pituitary gland. So this is hypothalamic area and it serves many functions. We'll be dealing regarding that. It is also called as a control center for endocrine system. It contains neuronal cells, but which is secreting endocrine hormones. So that's why they are also called as a neuroendocrine system or neuroendocrine cells or neurocrine cells. These are different words which are being utilized. We'll be discussing under introduction, endocrine function, actions, regulations, investigation, treatment and complications. Now we know very well that hypothalamus is a ventral part of diencephalon which lies below the thalamus. So it is the upper part is thalamus, below part is hypothalamus. The weight of that particular hypothalamic part is around 4 gram if compared to the whole brain weight around 1400 grams. It is consisting of 0.3 to 0.5% of total brain mass and it is a main center for autonomic nervous system. So it has got an autonomic function also. Now the uppermost part we call diencephalon, then we have got epithalamus, thalamus, and we have got a hypothalamus. So these are the structures which are being there. So this is the thalamic part and this is a hypothalamus. This portion is hypothalamus and this is a pituitary stalk and this is pituitary gland. This is midbrain, pons and medulla. So that is the structure. This is pituitary stalk. This is pituitary gland. This is a hypothalamic area. This is a hypothalamic area. And this portion will be thalamic area. Now there are two portions in a hypothalamus. There is one portion we call as a supraoptic nucleus and paraventricular nucleus. These are neuroendocrine systems which is secreting. Supraoptic nucleus secretes ADH. Paraventricular nucleus secretes oxytocin. So these two hormones, whatever are synthesized here, manufactured here, they are thrown into this particular tract we call hypophyseal, hypothalamic, hypophyseal tract, and it comes to the what we call as the axon part of this particular cell, and they are stored in vesicles. Whenever there is a stimulus, they will be secreted out into this portal system. So they are manufactured here but stored in posterior pituitary, or we call neurohypophysis, and this is a stalk. This is the stalk part of pituitary gland, while the other nucleus we call different nucleus that is present in median eminence and other part of hypothalamus. They secrete what we call as stimulatory hormones, inhibitory hormones, and those hormones are secreted out into a blood we call as a portal system, and this particular is hypothalamic hypophyseal portal system, and through that it comes into anterior pituitary and it will produce an effect on an anterior pituitary, and in anterior pituitary it will give rise to secretion of other groups of hormones that are secreted by anterior pituitary. They are manufactured here and they are secreted out into this portal venous system, and then they will act on a target organs, different target organs like thyroid, gonads, adrenal glands, other muscle bodies, etc. Now, this is we call as a blood supply. Blood supply is by a superior hypophyseal artery, then trabecular artery. This artery will give rise to the formation of what we call as a plexus, that we call as a portal venous plexus, as it is connecting hypothalamus with hypophyseal. So it is called hypothalamic hypophyseal portal venous system, and whatever hormone is manufactured here is secreted out. Those are carried by this particular system into anterior pituitary, while a hormone which is manufactured by paraoptic nucleus and paraventricular nucleus, supraoptic nucleus and paraventricular nucleus, they will be carried via the axon into neurohypophysis, and it will be stored there. So this is what we call as the arterial system. This is in general the function of what we call as a hypothalamus. It takes part in regulation of blood pressure. It regulates the heart rate via autonomic nervous system, that is mainly sympathetic system. It also takes part in electrolyte balance, body temperature. It also regulates the circadian rhythm, thirst, water balance, sleep and wakefulness, feeding, appetite, emotions. Now we are interested in this part we call endocrine function. It manufactures endocrine hormones which will control the secretion of anterior pituitary, as well as it also manufactures two hormones we call as oxytocin and we call ADH. These two hormones are secreted out and they are stored in posterior pituitary, and whenever they are released, oxytocin will act on uterine contractions and milk ejections, while ADH hormone will be acting on a kidney, distal convoluted tubule, and it will take part in water balance. It will take part in a water balance, as well as because of the growth hormones and gonadotropin hormones, it also takes part in reproductive system. That is, it will be acting on a testes and ovary. So it takes part in regulation of all this: blood pressure, heart rate, electrolyte, body temperature, water balance, thirst, feeding, appetite, autonomic nervous system, circadian rhythm, sleep, wakefulness, emotions, etc. plus endocrine function. So there are a lot of nucleus: periventricular nucleus, arcuate nucleus, supraoptic nucleus, etc. All this nucleus takes part in an endocrine function. We are not going into detail of that particular portion. Here, this slide shows you what hormones is secreted by which nucleus. Preoptic nucleus will secrete what we call as gonadotropin hormone, gonadotropin releasing hormone. Supraoptic nucleus will release what we call as the ADH, vasopressin. Paraventricular nucleus will secrete oxytocin, TRH and CRH. Arcuate nucleus will secrete growth hormone releasing factor, dopamine and feeding. These are the four main nucleus which is taking part in an endocrine function: preoptic nucleus, supraoptic nucleus, paraventricular nucleus and arcuate nucleus. Out of which the paraventricular nucleus and supraoptic nucleus, they secretes vasopressin and ADH, which is stored in posterior pituitary and then it is released. While preoptic nucleus, then paraventricular nucleus and arcuate nucleus, they also manufacture the hormones and they will be passed on via the portal venous system, which connects hypothalamus to anterior pituitary, and they will directly act on an cells of anterior pituitary and they will release different hormones. These are all releasing hormones and inhibitory hormones. We call trophic hormones. So the action of hypothalamus is on a pituitary gland by releasing hormone or by inhibitory hormones. And then whatever pituitary gland releases, they will act on a target organs like kidney, testes, ovary, adrenal glands, thyroid gland, etc. So these are the different types of cell we call neurosecretory cells or neuroendocrine cells or neurocrine cells. And they'll secrete the hormones which will be passed on to the portal venous system, and through that it will be acting on an anterior pituitary gland, and they will release the hormone from anterior pituitary gland, while supraoptic and paraventricular nucleus will secrete the hormone. They'll be carried from those neuroendocrine cell via the axon, and they will be stored in posterior pituitary in the form of vesicles, and they will be released only on stimulus. So as far as the hormonal effect is concerned, what are the hormones which are secreted? We call it the neurohormones. This particular, we have already told you, oxytocin and vasopressin. These are manufactured in hypothalamus, stored in posterior pituitary, and then released into the bloodstream. While the hormone from hypothalamus, which are manufactured in hypothalamus, passed on to the anterior pituitary, they are corticotropic releasing hormone, short form we call it CRH, gonadotropic releasing hormone we call as a GnRH, gonadotropic inhibitory hormone we call as a GnIH, growth hormone releasing factor GHRH, growth hormone release inhibiting hormone, or also called as a somatostatin, prolactin releasing hormone PRH, and a prolactin releasing inhibitory hormone is called dopamine, thyrotropic releasing hormone TRH, and melanocyte stimulating hormone and melanocyte release inhibitory hormone is called dopamine. So these are the different hormones which are being manufactured and released. Out of this, you can see I have marked this as an inhibitory hormone. We have got a gonadotropic inhibitory hormone, growth hormone release inhibitory hormone, prolactin release inhibitory hormone, and MSH releasing inhibitory hormones. So we have got 4 inhibitory hormones, and rest are releasing hormones, or we call trophic hormones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and even MSH 6. 6 are releasing hormone and 4 inhibitory hormones. Now what is the function of these hormones? The releasing hormone will stimulate the pituitary gland to release other group of hormone. TRH will release TSH from pituitary. Gonadotropic hormone will release FSH, LH, while corticotropic releasing hormone will release ACTH. Dopamine will inhibit prolactin, and GHIH will inhibit growth hormone. So these are the different functions what they will perform, and we'll be doing in little more detail. And GHRH is also called as somatokinin. Somatokinin. So this will stimulate anterior pituitary to release growth hormone. MSH inhibitory hormone will inhibit MSH. This growth hormone inhibitory factor or inhibitory hormone is called somatostatin. So somatostatin is opposite of somatokinin. And prolactin inhibitory hormone is also called dopamine. So we have got prolactin releasing hormone, which is the opposite of dopamine. So this is hypothalamus. These are different hormones which are secreted by hypothalamus. We call these are all releasing factor: gonadotropic releasing, growth hormone releasing, thyrotropic releasing, prolactin, and corticotropic. And we have got 2 inhibitory, main inhibitory: prolactin inhibitory, growth hormone inhibitory, or also called somatostatin, and this is called dopamine. This will stimulate FSH-LH, release of FSH-LH. Growth hormone will stimulate growth hormone, releasing factor will stimulate growth hormone from anterior pituitary. This is stimulatory. This is again stimulatory. This will inhibit growth hormone. This will inhibit growth hormone. TRH will stimulate TSH, as well as growth hormone inhibitory factor will inhibit TSH release. So TSH will be controlled by TRH as well as somatostatin. This is inhibitory, this is excitatory. TRH will also stimulate prolactin, and prolactin will be stimulated by prolactin releasing hormone. So prolactin is released by two, TRH and PRH, while it will be inhibited by what we call as a dopamine, or we call prolactin inhibitory hormone. And CRH will stimulate ACTH, will stimulate ACTH. So if you remember this particular slide, it will become very easy. Again I am repeating. Gonadotropic will stimulate FSH-LH. Growth hormone will stimulate growth hormone. Growth hormone releasing factor will stimulate only release of growth hormone. While somatostatin will inhibit two, growth hormone and TSH. TSH release will be stimulated by TRH, but inhibited by somatostatin. Prolactin will be stimulated by prolactin releasing hormone and TRH, but inhibited by dopamine, or we call as a prolactin inhibitory hormone. And ACTH is stimulated by corticotropic releasing hormone. So remember this diagram. Same thing is given here. Same thing is mentioned here. So TRH will stimulate TSH and prolactin. Corticotropic will stimulate only ACTH. Growth hormone will stimulate only growth hormone. Growth hormone or somatostatin, which is inhibitory factor, will inhibit growth hormone as well as TSH. Gonadotropic releasing hormone will stimulate FSH and LH. Prolactin will stimulate prolactin, while prolactin will be inhibited by dopamine, or what we call as a prolactin inhibitory hormone. So these are the effect on anterior pituitary. So the function of these are all the hormones which are released by hypothalamus. So corticotropic releasing factor TRH, gonadotropic releasing factor, inhibitory factor, somatokinin and somatostatin. So these are all the different hormone and what it does. So this is regarding an anterior pituitary. And we have already told you, in a posterior pituitary, the hormone which is manufactured in supraoptic nucleus and paraventricular nucleus, that is ADH and oxytocin. Oxytocin will directly act on mammary glands, that is breast, and it will act on uterus. While ADH hormone will act on a kidney, distal convoluted tubule. This is again how the secretion produces what? Stimulation. We have already given before this. And this particular slide shows what hormones are released by anterior pituitary and where it will act. So this will be dealing in detail when we do anterior pituitary gland. So these are the anterior pituitary and these are the hormones which are released and where it is acting. These are what we call as the target organs, and these are the hormone. Prolactin will act on a breast tissue, TSH will act on thyroid gland, ACTH will act on a adrenal cortex, growth hormone will act on liver and other cells of the body, FSH and LH will act on gonads both in male and female as well as. These are all the different types of hormones. These are all we call as a neurosecretory cells. They are basically neuronal cells and they secrete hormones. So they are called neurosecretory cells or neuroendocrine system or neurocrine system. And this is what we call as a three-level integration. Hypothalamus acting on anterior pituitary and anterior pituitary acting on a target endocrine glands, and they will be acting on target cells. So we'll be dealing in detail as we go to the next lectures. This is already we have shown you before. These are acting on an adenohypophysis. These are acting on a neurohypophysis. In the neurohypophysis, they are stored and they will be acting on kidney and mammary gland and what we call as a hypothalamus. So these are the different types of hormones what are being secreted by hypothalamus, which will be acting on an anterior pituitary and which will be acting via neurohypophysis. See here, they are nothing is secreted from neurohypophysis, but neurohypophysis stores those hormones and released into bloodstream, and then they act on the target organs. We already mentioned all this before. These are all those different hormones where they are acting. Again, same diagram. ADH acts on a kidney tubule, oxytocin will act on a smooth muscle as well as mammary gland, thyroid TSH will act on a thyroid gland, ACTH will act on adrenal cortex, prolactin will act on a mammary glands, growth hormone will act on a bone, muscles, liver, etc. And gonadotropic hormone will act and release FSH, will act on gonads, ovary and testes. These are all those same thing given. Stimulatory factor, inhibitory factor. This is individual hormones. Thyrotropic releasing hormone, also called as prolactin releasing hormone. So short form, this is called TRH or TRF or PRH. And they stimulate TSH secretion as well as from anterior pituitary as well as prolactin secretions from anterior pituitary. So it stimulates two, TSH and prolactin secretions. Corticotrophin releasing hormone, or we call trophic hormones. So CRH or CRF, it will stimulate secretion of ACTH from anterior pituitary. Gonadotropic releasing, or it is also called as a GnRH or LHRH. So it will stimulate release of FSH and LH from anterior pituitary. Growth hormone will stimulate release of growth hormones, releasing factor or releasing hormone will release growth hormone from anterior pituitary. Somatostatin, which is an inhibitory factor for growth hormone. So growth hormone inhibiting hormone, or it is called SS, that is somatostatin, or GHIH, growth hormone inhibitory hormones, and that will inhibit the release of growth hormone as well as it will inhibit TSH. So it inhibits two factors. Dopamine, or also called as a prolactin inhibitory hormone. So DA or PIH, it will inhibit prolactin release from anterior pituitary. So dopamine will inhibit prolactin release from anterior pituitary, and that's why it is also responsible for sexual arousal. Oxytocin, manufactured in manufactured in hypothalamus, stored in neurohypophysis and released on stimulus, and it will give rise to uterine contraction and lactation. ADH hormone, or we call as a vasopressin, or also called as a ADH hormone, that will stimulate, or short form also called as a AVP, arginine vasopressin. So it will act directly on a distal convoluted tubule and increase water permeability, and water will be retained. Water will be reabsorbed. So these are all the different hormones what are being manufactured in hypothalamus, released from hypothalamus, having action on anterior pituitary, and from neurohypophysis it will have an action on uterus, mammary gland, and distal convoluted tubule in kidney. Now there are some factors which will increase the hypothalamic secretions or decrease the hypothalamic secretions. So there are some neuronal signals like pain, depression, excitement, certain smells, stretch, glucose, insulin level, low blood glucose level, reduces the stimulus and reduces the insulin release. So these are all the factors which can stimulate the hypothalamic secretion depending upon, say excitement will secrete ACTH, and it will also release what we call as the stress hormones. So depending upon pain will stimulate again release of what we call as the stress hormones, that is TSH, ACTH. So those hormones will be released, and depending upon the glucose level, lower blood glucose level will stimulate glucagon, while it will inhibit insulin, and high blood glucose level will stimulate insulin and reduces glucagon level. So depending upon that, so these are all the different way and means by which you get a release of hormones, and we call the feedback systems. Now as far as the feedback system is concerned, we'll be showing you in the next slide. But here, this is a good slide, so I'm explaining here. Hypothalamus, say, as for example, releases gonadotropin, which will act on anterior pituitary, and through anterior pituitary, it will release FSH-LH, that will act on gonads, and gonads will release estrogen and testosterone, or we call androgens. Now this estrogen and testosterone will inhibit GnRH, which is released from hypothalamus. This is called negative feedback, but this is called long loop. This is called long loop. But at the same time, it also inhibits GnRH, which is released from what we call as effect of GnRH, this into anterior pituitary and decrease the production of FSH-LH. So this is called short loop negative feedback. This is short, acting on anterior pituitary. This is acting on main hypothalamus. So this is called long loop. So these are the short loop, long loop, negative feedback mechanism. And there are certain chemical stimulus like nutrients, electrolytes, etc., which gives rise to stimulus to hypothalamus for secretions. So here, this is a diagram which is showing you central nervous system, stimulus and inputs, either inhibitory inputs or excitatory inputs on a hypothalamus, which will release the releasing factors, or we call releasing hormones, or release inhibitory hormones. And they will have either negative effect or excitatory effects on anterior pituitary, which will release trophic hormones, and that will have an effect on a target organs. So these trophic hormones can inhibit itself anterior pituitary. So high level of TSH can inhibit anterior pituitary itself. So this is called short loop, ultra short loop negative feedback. But if the hormone released by target organ, say T3, T4, that inhibits anterior pituitary, it is a short loop. And if the hormone inhibits the hypothalamus, it is a called long loop. If these trophic hormones, say like TSH, inhibits hypothalamus, then it is a short loop for TSH, short loop negative feedback. And if say T3 has got some physiological effect and that produces inhibition of the target organs, say thyroid gland, then it is called ultra short loop. So these are the different mechanisms by which you can have inhibition, that is we call as a negative feedback mechanism. So just keep a watch on this. Again, same thing shown here, hormone 1 stimulating production of hormone 2, stimulating the target organs, and there is a target gland hormones, say like thyroid gland. This is thyroid gland. So this is T3, T4. This T3, T4 can inhibit anterior pituitary and can also inhibit hypothalamus. When it inhibits hypothalamus, long loop. When it inhibits anterior pituitary, short loops. And if TSH inhibits anterior pituitary, ultra short loop. So these are the three words which are being utilized. Same thing explained here. Long loop, short loop, ultra short loop, ultra short loop. So depending upon that, accordingly you use three words: long loop, short loop, ultra short loop. Same thing explained here. Brain center stimulating hypothalamus, releasing factors, pituitary releases adrenal cortex, gonads, thyroid gland, and those hormones will have a short loop, long loop. So those will be the way in which they will be managing, or what we call as a regulating the hormone secretions. Same thing is shown here. Same thing is shown here. This is explained for all different types of hormones. CRH, gonadotropic, TRH, sorbitol, growth hormone, dopamine, etc. Inhibition, excitation, whatever it is, the function, those are all explained here. So that is the way you get a control of what we call as feedback mechanisms. This is again showing you the same thing. Long loops, short loops, different types of hormones, what are being secreted, which hormones are secreted, what are the target or endocrine system and target hormones. Same thing shown here. Now we go to what we call as, there will be two basic type of pathophysiology which can happen in a hypothalamus. We call genetic and we call acquired. In genetic, there are some where we can decrease production of certain hormones or abnormal production of hormones. Among acquired, we have got post-surgical, radiation, drugs, infection, etc. This will produce damage to the hypothalamic neuronal cells or neuroendocrine cells and will decrease the production. Autoimmune and infection can initially may stimulate or may inhibit the production of hormones by hypothalamus. And there are certain tumors in hypothalamus, particularly one tumor we call as a craniopharyngioma. So that can produce pressure effects on surrounding structure, including even pituitary glands. So pituitary gland can be destroyed because of a craniopharyngioma or malignant tumors of hypothalamus. Traumatic injury, particularly post-surgical. Say if some surgery is done on hypothalamus, it will decrease the production of all hormone and having an effect on anterior pituitary. And that will give rise to panhypopituitarism. Good number of times you come across those particular conditions. Very rarely a vascular pathophysiology will produce a destruction of the neuroendocrine cells of hypothalamus, but you can have. So tumors, infection, trauma and vascular. Infection, trauma and vascular can produce acute onset, while post-surgical radiations, etc. Radiation, drugs, autoimmune, they will produce chronic damage. So this will be all conditions which will produce hyposecretions. Very few conditions will have a hypersecretions. Hyposecretions will be more common than hypersecretions. And they will have a secondary effect on anterior pituitary. Along with hyposecretions, there will be lot of other symptoms and signs which are because of other functions of hypothalamus like anorexia, bulimia, tumors producing pressure effects, head trauma producing a damage to the hypothalamic cells, infections, malnutrition can also produce damage to the hypothalamic cells, radiation, surgery, excess of iron, we call hemosiderosis, all those can produce a damage. If there is a primary hypersecretion from hypothalamus, we call as a primary disorders. If hypothalamus producing decreased production and that produces indirectly, this decreased production is secondary due to pituitary hyperproduction, then that is called secondary hypersecretion due to pituitary problems. Sorry, this is yes, this is pituitary gland getting hypersecretion because of hypothalamus. So if hypothalamus is producing excess of CRH, you will have a ACTH excess production. So pituitary gland is not as a disorder. So we call it a secondary pituitary disorder. This is secondary to hypothalamus. But if pituitary gland itself is producing hyperproduction, then this will be primary. This will be primary. Very clear? So if pituitary gland itself is producing, sorry, this is mentioned regarding an adrenal cortex. Sorry. So if adrenal cortex is producing cortisol at higher level, this will be primary hypersecretion of adrenal cortex, and that will inhibit ACTH and CRH. So this is primary disorder of adrenal cortex. If ACTH is producing secondary effect on adrenal cortex, so that is because of increased production of ACTH and because of increased production of ACTH, it has got increased action of adrenal cortex, that we call as a secondary. Also, if hypothalamus is producing excesses of CRH, which will have effect on anterior pituitary, which will have tertiary effect on adrenal cortex, then this initially it was called as a tertiary, but now this is also called as a secondary hypersecretion because of hypothalamic problem. So this is secondary hyper secretion of adrenal cortex, and that is secondary. This is also secondary. This will be primary. So now, as far as the clinical features is concerned, clinical features we can divide into one, effect of hypothalamic secretions on pituitary. So if hypothalamus producing effect on pituitary and pituitary is having hyposecretion or hypersecretion, we'll call that as secondary for pituitary gland. So if hypothalamus producing excess of hormone, there will be excess of stimulation of anterior pituitary, so it will produce hyperpituitarism, but we will call that as secondary hyperpituitarism. And if it is producing less hormone, so anterior pituitary also produces less hormone, so that will be called as a secondary hypopituitarism. So this is secondary effects on anterior pituitary. But if hypothalamus produces tumors and those tumors produces pressure effects on pituitary and it decreases the production of a pituitary gland, it will be secondary hypopituitarism. Plus, because of the tumor, it will produce a mass effect, raised intracranial pressure, destruction of the clinoid process of pituitary glands, and sella turcica will be widened. You will also have a papilledema. There will be pressure effect on what we call as optic chiasma. This will be all secondary effect because of the tumor of hypothalamus or tumor which are because of pituitary glands. So these are the clinical features what you can come across. So genetic factor can produce hypothalamic or even pituitary hormone gene defects, or because of the mass it will produce raised intracranial pressure, that is headache, nausea, vomiting, papilledema which will have a visual defects, and also because of the pressure effect on the second cranial nerve at the level of optic chiasma, it will produce bilateral temporal hemianopia, or it can also have a pressure effects on what we call as a cavernous sinus, and in a cavernous sinus you have got a third cranial nerve and the sixth cranial nerve which can be compressed. You can have a third and sixth cranial nerve palsy. It can also produce obstructive hydrocephalus. It can also produce CNS rhinorrhea. It can produce hypothalamic syndromes where you can have a diabetes insipidus because of a decreased production of ADH hormones. It can produce excessive production of ADH hormone, SIDH. Person can have an abnormal other symptoms because of the abnormal function of hypothalamus like increased thirst or decreased thirst, increased appetite, decreased appetite, sleep disturbances, temperature regulations. All this can be affected because of mass effects, as well as you can have an effect on a frontal lobe and temporal lobe. So because of hypothalamic pituitary system, there will be deficiency of production of hypothalamic hormone, and that can be seen in the different types of manifestation like abnormal menstrual period, spermatogenesis, ACTH will produce decreased production of what we call as a cortical hormones of adrenal glands, hypothalamic hypothyroidism. All this can be produced. Low level of growth hormone will produce decreased growth, and hyperprolactinemia will cause the absence of prolactin inhibitory secretions. Among investigation, main important is history, physical examination, systemic examination. To confirm whether the hormone is normal, increase or decrease production, you will have to do a hormonal assay. To find out the tumors are present or not, or there is a hyperplasia, or there is a destruction, you can go for a radiological study and radionucleotide studies. investigations for effect of hormone. So whatever is the effect of the hormone, whether increase or decrease, you can do the investigation of those target organs. If there is an overproduction, you can do inhibitory test, and if there is an underproduction, you can do stimulation test or excitatory test. As far as management is concerned, in case of hyposecretion, you will have to do replacement from outside. While in case of hypersecretion, you can use drugs, you can go for radiotherapy, or you can go for surgical interventions. And in case of hyposecretion, you can add symptomatic treatments or treat the basic cause. Among complications, one is hypersecretion, not very common. And this hypersecretion will have a secondary effect on pituitary. So hyperpituitarism, but more common is hyposecretion. So you'll get secondary hypopituitarism. Because of mass, you will have a raised intracranial pressure, etc. So this is hypothalamic disorders. I hope this is simplified and it is useful to you.